Good morning, pre-K. Happy Wednesday. I'm so happy to see you. In our countdown, we are 9 days until Christmas. How exciting. Now, we have been talking about transportation and learning about it. And I know Miss Nielsen in her video did community vehicles in shapes, in shapes. And we're gonna go a little bit deeper into that and talk about how we could also use shapes to make a lot of other different vehicles, and a little repetition never hurt anybody, right? We all need to remember our shapes, how to make them, how to cut them, how to paste them. So we are going to do a little bit of a different project today that's a little bit similar to Miss Nielsen's, but a little bit different. What we're going to focus on today are trains. And I'm gonna read you a story that has very little words in it, but that's okay because the pictures will allow us to use our imagination to gather information. We're also going to see the different kinds of shapes that a train can have. Even from the front of the book, you could already see that there are a ton of shapes on this part of the train. And then going back, you see a little bit more. When we're done, Ms. Herman's going to show you the activity that you are going to complete at home. I'm going to do it with you. And as you can see, Ms. Herman has already made some shapes. And so I made some circles. We'll see what that's going to be for. I made a rectangle, a square, a triangle, a square that you'll see why it has an L in there. And then I made another rectangle with 1, 2, 3, 4 windows for squares for windows, a rectangle in the middle, split in half for the door of the train. Now, another part that you're going to do to make your train super long is we're going to cut out squares and we're gonna write the letters of our names in there like Miss Herman did. Now, Miss Herman's last name is very, very long, Miss Herman. So my train would be about this big. So you're going to get to know a very special secret, my first name. So after we read the book, Miss Herman's gonna demonstrate the proper way to cut because we need to go over that. And then you are gonna complete the project at home by writing your own name in each square. However, you have to count out the letters in your name to make sure you have enough squares. You're going to write the letter, each letter of your name in one different square, and then you're gonna use the other shapes that you could think of to build the rest of the train. And it could look something like this at the end, but you would just have it a little longer because back here, that would be your back, but in the middle is going to be your squares with your name on it. And you'll understand better once Miss Herman shows you at the end. But first, let's get into our book, Freight Train by Donald Cruz. Now, Donald Cruz is a very famous author who uses a lot of color and pictures in his books, but not a lot of words. And that's okay when reading because pictures are very important to the story. Not only do the words in the story give you information, but the pictures do. And in this case, we are using this picture not only for the story or what the words might say, but we're paying attention to the pictures even more because we are looking to see what kind of shapes a train has. A train runs along the track. That's the track right here. The red caboose is at the back. Now let's look at here. What do we see here? I could see a big triangle, right? For the windows, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. And what shape is this? If you said circle, you're right. Now this one could almost look like a triangle, almost if we cut the little tip off of it, right? Orange tank car next, yellow hopper car. So just look at the pictures for a second. I want you can even pause the video and talk about what shapes you see, even in the wheels, what shapes are used. Maybe the parts that connect the train together, there's different shapes. These lines all have different shapes in them. So pause the video for a second and talk to your grown-up that you're with and tell them what shapes you see on this part of the train. There's a green cattle car, and again, this one's very interesting. And if you want to pause and look at it, this one is made up of a big rectangle, but if you pay close attention, you could see other types of shapes in here. Let's look in the middle here. What kind of shapes do these look like? Or this one, or this one, or this one. If you said triangles, you're right. I also see a big rectangle here, some circles for the wheels, green cattle car, blue gondola car, and purple box car. So again, if you want to pause the video and talk to your grown-up that you're with about what shapes you see on this part of the train. Black and tender and a black steam engine. Now this one, we could see a ton of shapes. Circles on the wheels, windows that are a little bit rounded on top like an oval, but then come to like a square shape at the bottom, right? I could see a longer rectangle here, a little bit of a longer, thinner rectangle here. Again, pause the video and take a look at all the pictures. This is the freight train all together. So Miss Herman actually, when she's gonna do her train, used a bunch of different colors too, because that's what I saw in the book. And you can use any colors you want, but wouldn't it look so pretty if we had a nice rainbow train like we see in the book? And look how pretty it looks moving. Now when it moves, we lose a little bit of the shapes, right? The only ones Miss Herman could see for sure are the circles on the wheels. But it looks like a pretty rainbow when it's moving super fast on the track. It's going by big cities, and we also learned about city shapes, right? What shapes we see in the buildings around our city. So we don't just cover shapes when we want to draw them or cut them or talk about them. And we don't just cover them in city shapes. We cover shapes all the time. There are shapes all around us. There's, even in the back right here, I could see a circle and a square. These are all circles, right? Shapes are everywhere. So it's important to pay attention to them. Crossing trestles. And I could see so many more shapes on the bridge. Moving in darkness and moving in daylight, going, gone. So see, it was a very short book, not a lot of words. And now Miss Herman is going to show you. So first I'm going to cut, and when we hold a scissor, my scissor is a lot bigger because I'm a grown-up, but your scissor is smaller, but we want to make sure our thumb goes in the small round hole, and our two fingers, our pointer and our middle, go into the longer hole on the bottom support. And then to open the scissor, you're going to take your fingers apart, and to close them, you're going to bring your fingers back together. Now it takes a lot of practice, but if you keep making this motion while you have them, open, close, you're gonna make your muscles in your hands a lot stronger. Now another very important thing to remember when we're cutting is to keep your thumb up. Now we say that a lot in class, thumb up when cutting. That means your thumb has to be on top. We don't cut like this sideways. We don't cut it with our thumb on the bottom. We always make sure our wrist is turned so that our thumb is on the top, and that's the best way to cut. So Miss Herman's gonna show you, And don't worry, I've had many, many years of cutting experience and I'm still not perfect. But don't think because my cutting came out so well that it means your cutting isn't as great. You are still practicing, and anything in any way that you do it is the best you can do it. So Ms. Herman's gonna cut out a triangle first, and that is going to be the front of the train. Here's my triangle. And then I'm just gonna put it to the side. Now I'm going to make the middle of the train, and I've put a door for people to get on and some windows that we would see out of. And I made it a rectangle. We're gonna be careful to cut the rectangle, and look how I'm cutting. My thumb is up and I'm opening and closing my fingers, and I move the paper, not the way my hand is. And I go up, down, up. And you do open and close to make sure that you get all the pieces of the paper off. And now I'm gonna cut out the back of the train, which is another rectangle. So far we've used a rectangle that's tall and standing up. We used a rectangle that's on its side. This one's tall and standing up. And we use a triangle for the front. And then next we're going to cut out the squares that have our letters of our names in it. And then we're gonna put it all together. Now this also helps to learn how to spell our names. So Ms. Herman is going to start cutting out the squares with my letters in there. So only one letter per square, right? And that also lets us know how much space we need to keep in between our letters when we're writing, right? We don't want to make our letters too close together because then it just looks like scribble scrabble. We can't tell which letter is which. So we want to make sure that our letters have enough spacing. And I'm just cutting, as you can see. Now I'm gonna cut my U out. And see how I move the paper, but my thumb is always up. I move the paper, not the scissor. Let me see if I can do it this way. I wish my tripod angled down so I could show you below. But for now, I'm gonna have to cut it out in the air. R is another part of my name. So that's another square. And I counted out the letters in my name before I made the square. So I knew how many I needed and how many of each square I needed to put one letter in. N is also in my, well, that's upside down. N is also in my name. And my last square, E. It's not in order yet, but when we glue it, we're gonna make sure to put it in order, right? Because it doesn't make sense if the name's not in order, then that's not our real name. And finally, Ms. Herman's gonna cut out some circles for, let's see if you can guess. What do you think the circles will be for? If you think it's for the wheels, you're right. Right? We talked about how wheels help vehicles and transportation get places. And I know we're gonna, at least in our class in 4-3, we've started covering ramps and how that helps wheels move faster or slower. So wheels and the circle shape and the wheels are very important to transportation. So see, cut that out. Let me see if I can cut it this way so you can see. So again, thumb up, and Ms. Herman moves the paper, not the scissor. I always keep my thumb up, and I move the paper to cut the circle. And I cut out 4 circles for 4 wheels. Now at home, yep, see, Mr. Ron's cutting isn't perfect either. Nobody's perfect. Except for you guys, you're pretty perfect. Okay, so now I have all my shapes. I have my squares with my letters in them to spell my name. I have my front of the train with the middle. And I have the back, rectangle. Now you're going to use, because I know at home we send home material, so all of you should have, oh no, I just lost one of my wheels. It fell into the garbage. Okay, I guess our train's only gonna have 3 wheels. You can use a glue stick like this. And what you're going to do is take your shape. On the back of your shape, you're gonna put a little bit of glue. We don't have to get crazy. It'll stick. And you're gonna wanna glue it onto another piece of paper, like this. So let's see if Miss Herman can do it this way. If I can show you in the screen. So that would be the front of the train. The little pointier piece of the train. And then Miss Herman's gonna glue her rectangle for the middle. That includes all my squares and my rectangle in the middle for the door and the windows. And then I'm going to put, but I can't let you see it because it's a secret. I'm gonna reveal my first name to you. Now I'm gonna put all of my letters in order, and we're gonna start from, let me show you so you guys can see. So Miss Herman had to move her train to the bottom to make more room. We're gonna put all the letters from this way going in, so it spells our name. Pasting. Now Miss Herman, I guess, did not follow her own advice because she made her squares a little too close together. So I'm gonna have to move them now. And that's okay. We all make mistakes, right? We all mess up. We all make mistakes. We just try our best and we fix them. Oh, Miss Herman. Okay, so as you could this train, Miss Herman did not follow her own directions, and see how you need to listen, like Miss Herman needs to listen better. So my page got my, I didn't have enough room. But, so the general idea will be that you will, sorry, I'm trying to show you the front of the train. You'll have a front triangle, a middle, and then you're gonna spell your name. It looks backwards in the camera, but my name is L-A-U-R-E-N, Lauren. So when you see it hanging up, you could read it this way. So you wanna be able to read it from left to right. And then Miss Herman would put the back on it. And if Miss Herman would have followed the rules that she gave herself and listened to her own direction, she would have left room at the bottom to put the wheels. So then that's the back of the train. And I know this isn't perfect, trust me. I'm sure you guys will do a better job. You're nicer artists. And the last piece that you will add that Mr. Mon doesn't have a piece to add to are the wheels. And those are circle shapes. Now you can follow what I did, or you can create another vehicle if you can think of it with your imagination, that you can include your name in it and use shapes to build your name. We'd be really interested to see that too, especially if you came up with it yourself with your creative little brains. So I can't wait to see your work. Let us know what you create. And I also want you to pay attention to, when you're looking at different forms of transportation, that shapes are in all different types of transportation. If we think about an airplane's wings, those sort of look like triangles. If we look at an airplane, it can kind of be maybe an oval shape. Windows on cars and trains and planes can be circles or squares. Doors on trains are usually a rectangle shape. So just pay attention to when you see a form of transportation in school, at home, on the street, that you pay attention to what shapes are in that mode of transportation. Have fun creating. See you soon.